lesson is on how to find the area of a parallelogram and trapezoids. And just as a little review from last week, a parallelogram, to be a parallelogram, it has two sets, so this one and this one, two sets of parallel sides. We also know that opposite sides are equal, so if this was 5 inches, then we know this is 5 inches. And if this was 7 inches, then we'd know that this is 7 inches. And we also know that opposite angles are the same, so those two would be equal, and these two would be equal. And we're also going to talk about trapezoids, so just as a review, to be a trapezoid, it only has one set of parallel sides. And remember, both of these are quadrilaterals, four-sided figures. So our objective today is the student will find, well, we'll just draw an arrow since it's here for us. We're going to find area of trapezoids and parallelograms. And today is the 27th. Alright, so if we take a look at the front page of your packet, where all the formulas are, we're going to start with the area of a parallelogram. And if we turn to the front page of your packet, let's see if this is something we need to memorize or if this is something given to us. So if we check out our packet, parallelogram, and we go across to area, it says to take the base and multiply by the height. Okay, so the area equals the base times the height. So let's go ahead and take a look at why that is. So if we have a parallelogram, so we know that a base and a height needs to make a right angle. So this right here cannot be the height because it goes at a slant. So we need to know what the height is. So it needs to go from the top to the bottom. So they're going to need to measure for us what the height is. So if I were to cut this parallelogram right here into two parts, and then I move this over here, that makes a rectangle. So notice if you look, base times height, you're taking the height, which ends up being this, and then multiplying by, just like length times width. So that is where that formula came from. It's the same thing as really a rectangle, except for a parallelogram doesn't have a length and a width. It's going to have a height, and then it's going to have a base. Alright, so if we take a look at this parallelogram here, again, this cannot be the height. It's at a slant. So we talked last week that a base and a height make a right angle. So we know where the right angle is what the base and the height is. So to find area, we're going to take the base, which is 9, and multiply by the height. From the top to the bottom of our parallelogram, it makes a right angle, so that's how we know that is the height. So just like area is asking how many squares fit inside the shape. That's what area is asking you. So when we label this, 9 times 7 is 63 square inches. For perimeter, a parallelogram has 4 sides. So we need to add 4 numbers together to find perimeter. So remember, perimeter is the distance around. So if I start here, I have to walk 9 inches, and then turn here and go 8 inches, and then this also is around the figure. So if this is 9, and a parallelogram has opposite sides equal, then I know this is another 9 inches. And then here we have, if this is 8, then this is 8 inches. So if we add that up, we would get 34 inches. Okay, so you could pause the video at this time and try example 2 here. So area equals base times height. So here, the height, we had to cut it up. Just like if we had our parallelogram here, this is not the height. So they had to draw in the height, which is this length right here is the height. So they went and measured from the top to the bottom and then drew that in there for us so that we would know what the height is. So this is going to be the height. And again, we know that that is our height because it makes a right angle with the floor. And we could think of that this is the floor. So they drew a dotted line so we would know where the bottom of the figure is. So this length is unneeded. We do not need to know what the length of this piece is here. So we have that the height is 3.2 meters times the base, which is 2. So that would give us an area of 6.4 square meters. Okay, then for perimeter, we have 4 sides to add. So if I start here, I have to go 2, and then I'm going to go across here, which if that's 5, then this has to be 5 to be a parallelogram. And then I'm going to go across here, so if that's 2, then this is 2. And then I'm going to go down here, and that's another 5. So that gives us a perimeter of 14 meters. Okay, now let's take a look at a trapezoid. So area of a trapezoid. So if we take a look at and explore before we take a look at what the formula is. So if we have a parallelogram, and I cut a parallelogram in half, like this. So see that they're in half, there's 2 now. So if I take that, now I have only 2 sides that are parallel. These ones are not, they're going to meet up here. So that is a trapezoid now. So I have 2 trapezoids. So the formula for the area of a trapezoid is half the area for a parallelogram. So we know that the area of a parallelogram is base times height. Okay, but a trapezoid here, we don't have the height here. And remember that a base makes a right angle with the height. So if I go from the top of this trapezoid to the bottom, I'm going to have a right angle here, and I'm going to have a right angle up here. So if I were to draw a line here, it's going to make a right angle there and up there. So it's like, which one do I use for the base? So if we think about this, and I put this back here, to find the base of a parallelogram, it's this side right here. But when I cut it into 2 pieces, now if I take this and add it to this, then I have a full length of the base of the parallelogram. So to find the area of a trapezoid, I have to add this length here, so that base, so that's going to be base 1, plus I have to add this here, which we're going to call that base 2, we have to add this plus this to get the entire length across here. So again, this right here, if I add it on to this, I have the whole distance across, which is the base of the parallelogram. Then I'm going to have to measure the height. So the height will stay the same. So again, the height of the parallelogram, so from the top to the bottom, doesn't change if I get rid of that. The height is still going to be the same, so I'm going to use the same height. So that is where the formula for the area of a trapezoid comes from. And you don't need to memorize that. That is actually on the Ames reference sheet. So if we flip over to the front, you can see that area of the trapezoid, that formula here is given. So let's get that into our notes. So the area of a trapezoid is half the height, and then add the bases. Now notice the bases are the two sides that are parallel. So the numbers we add aren't going to be these sides. These sides aren't parallel. It's going to be the two sides. So how you know what B1 and B2 is in the formula are the two sides that are parallel. So B1 and B2 are bases. They make a right angle with the height, and they are the sides that are parallel. So if we take a look at example 3, I automatically know that this side and this side are B1 and B2. And it doesn't matter which one is B1 or B2 because of the commutative property we're just adding. So we have half the height. So the height makes a right angle, so I know that this is the height right here. It makes a right angle up here, and it makes a right angle here. So that is the height. And then the bases are the sides that are parallel. So the 13 and the 5. And again, it does not matter which one goes where. So you can flip-flop these. So now we're going to simplify. So I'm going to start inside the parentheses according to order of operations. So we're going to add 13 plus 5. And then bring down the rest of the problem. And now this looks like the formula we worked on last Thursday, which was area of a triangle. And when we're multiplying three numbers like this, we could do half of 2, or we could do half of 18, or we could do 18 times 2 at this point and then take half of it. So for example, I could do half of 18, which is 9, and then times 2. Or you could do half of 2 is 1, and then times 18. So we get an area of 18 square feet. So perimeter. To find the perimeter, we have to add the quadrilateral 4 sides. So if I start here, I have to go 5 feet, and then 3 feet, and then 13 feet, and then 3 feet, which gives us a perimeter of 24 feet. Okay, now would be a good time to pause the video and go ahead and try example 4. Alrighty, so this is a trapezoid. I tell myself it's a trapezoid. It has a set of parallel sides right here. This side is not parallel to this side. They will eventually run into each other. So I know that this is base 1 and this is base 2, or vice versa. So the height makes a right angle with the bases. So I see that that would be a right angle and that would be a right angle. So this is the height. So I have 1/2 times the height, and then we're going to add the bases. The sides that are parallel are the bases. And now we're going to simplify. We're going to start with parentheses. So 4 plus 6 is 10. Okay, and then again, it doesn't matter the order we do this, so I'm going to do half of 10 is 5, and then times 3 is 15. So 15 squares would fit inside that, 15 square inches. And then perimeter, we have 4 sides to add. So if I start here, I'm going to go 3, then turn and go 6, and then 5, and then 4. So that gives us a perimeter of 18 inches. Alrighty, so if this was just 7th grade math, we would be done with our lesson. However, we need to apply our algebra skills and still reinforce what we just learned. So go ahead and flip over your notes. And this time, one of the side lengths is going to be x, an unknown. So it says, find the value of x given the area. Leave answer as decimal if necessary. So if I give you that the area of this trapezoid is 56 square centimeters, we need to figure out what would x have to be to get that as the area. So the first thing you want to do is identify. Identify what figure this is. And I know it's four-sided, and I know that it has to be a trapezoid because it has only one set of parallel sides. I know this is not parallel with that, they would meet. So first thing I'm going to do, step 1, is I'm going to copy down the formula now that I know it's a trapezoid. And then I'm going to substitute the values in. So the height is right here. It makes a right angle with the bases, so that's x. And then base 1 and base 2 is 17 and 11. And then we're going to substitute also the area that would be given, 56. And then we're going to simplify. So 17 plus 11, 28. Okay, now at this point, I could do this in any order. Well, I don't know what x is, so obviously I'm going to do half of 28 because I know what that is. So half of 28 is 14. And I'm going to bring down the x, and it's being multiplied, so I put it right next to it. Then, when you solve an equation, when you're done simplifying, when you're down to this, where there's just a variable next to a number, the very last step is to divide. So you're going to do 56 divided by 14, and 14 goes into 56 4 times. So the value for x that would get us that as our area would be 4 inches. Okay, you can pause the video and try number 6 now. It would actually help if I tell you that the area is 12 square meters. So go ahead and give that one a try. First, make sure you're identifying what figure that is. So this one is a parallelogram, and we know that because this side is parallel to this side. They will never intersect. And we also know that the other sides are parallel. So it has 2 sets of parallel sides. So we're going to copy down the formula and then substitute. So the base and the height make a right angle. So that's how I know I'm using 8 and x here. And the area is 12. So I like to put this as it's x times 8. I'd rather write it as 8x. So when this is all by itself, the very last step is to divide. 8 doesn't go evenly into 12, so I know I'm going to leave my answer as a decimal. So 12 divided by 8. And remember, you can simplify these numbers. You can divide both of these by 4 and then get 3 halves and then change that to a decimal. Or if you want to leave it as 8 and 12, 8 goes into 12 once. And then 8 goes into 40 5 times. So 1.5. So x equals 1.5 meters. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at number 7, and the area for this one, let's say, is 108 square inches. So go ahead and decide, write down the formula that's going to be used for this shape. So think about whether we're using this formula or we're going to use the area for a parallelogram, and write that down right now. So I'm going to identify this as it only has that and that side parallel. So I'm going to copy down the formula for the area of a trapezoid. Now step 2 is to substitute in the values. So I know the height makes a right angle with the base, and there's 2 bases on a trapezoid. So this is the height. And then the bases are the parallel sides. So I have 7 and I have x. So I have x and I have 7, and it doesn't matter which one goes where. And then the area is given as 108. So now I'm going to simplify. So if I start in the parentheses, can I add x and 7? Can I add x plus 7? So hopefully you're thinking, no, they're not like terms. We talked about this back in chapter 2. We can't add those. So let's see if there's anything else we can do. And out here, we can simplify this, because remember this stands for a number. So I could do half of 8, or I could do half of what this is, but I don't know what this is. So I'm going to go with half of 8. So half of 8 is 4. Then I'm going to bring down the problem. And remember that this is being multiplied. So I'm going to put that 4 right next to the parenthesis to show multiplication. And then we're going to go ahead and distribute. So simplify. So 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 7 is 28. And then we're going to solve that equation. So subtract 28. Cover up that variable so we remember. We're going to leave that alone. 108 minus 28 is 80. And then once this is all by itself, that is when and only when we are going to divide. And we get 20 centimeters for x. Now you can again check this. You can plug in now the 20 here. So if we were to plug in the 20 here, we'd get 20 plus 7 is 27. So now we'd have, now that we know what x is, we'd have this. So if we check it, half of 8 is 4, and then 4 times 27 is 108. It works. So go ahead and pass out the homework, and with whatever time we have left, go ahead and use your class time to start the homework.